The morning light streamed through tall windows of Eastman Conservatory's main hall as Maylene walked through its doors for the first time. She clutched her worn backpack strap with one hand, a simple folder of sheet music in the other. Unlike many new students who gazed in awe at the grand architecture or bounced with excitement, May's eyes remained downcast, her steps measured and quiet. At 19, May was slightly older than most first-year students. A transfer from a small music program in her hometown, she had arrived mid-semester with little fanfare. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her clothing plain and unmemorable. She seemed determined to blend into the background of the prestigious school. A sharp contrast to the many students who arrived desperate. To stand out, you must be Maylene, a voice called from across the marble floor. Dr. Thomas. Wallace approached with quick, confident strides. He was the head of piano performance, a man whose reputation preceded him. Former concert pianist turned educator, he had shaped many successful careers and had little patience for mediocrity. May nodded, her smile polite but guarded. "Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting my application. Your technical scores were adequate," he said, scanning her file. "Though your audition tape was—" He paused, searching for the right word, "competent. Nothing spectacular but solid foundations." May nodded again, neither defending her playing nor showing disappointment at his lukewarm assessment. "We have high expectations here," Dr. Wallace continued. "Many of our students have been performing since they were 4 or 5 years old. Competition is fierce." "I understand," she said softly. "Your first lesson with me is tomorrow morning at 8. Don't be late." With that, he walked away, leaving May alone in the echoing hall. Later that afternoon, May found herself in one of the smaller practice rooms, a space barely large enough for the upright piano inside. Unlike the grand performance spaces or even the nicer practice rooms with their gleaming Steinways, this room was tucked away in a quiet corner of the east wing. She seemed to prefer it that way. Her fingers moved over a simple Bach invention, the notes precise but restrained. Anyone listening might have thought she was a dedicated student with decent technique, nothing more. When the door opened suddenly, May's hands jerked away from the keys as if they'd burned her. "Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you," said a young woman with bright red hair twisted into a messy bun. "I'm June, your dorm neighbor. Violin performance." Her eyes darted to the sheet music. "Bach, that's what they've got you playing?" Me closed the music book. "Just warming up." Jun leaned against the doorframe. "You're lucky to study with Wallace, you know. He only takes students he thinks have real promise." "I think he took me to fill a spot after someone dropped out," May replied with a small smile. "Don't sell yourself short. Getting in here at all is huge." June's enthusiasm was infectious. "A bunch of us first years are going for coffee. Want to join?" May hesitated. "Maybe another time? I need to prepare for my lesson tomorrow." After Jun left, May sat quietly at the piano. Her fingers hovered over the keys, but she didn't play. Instead, she glanced toward the door, got up and closed it firmly, then returned to the bench. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to play again. Still Bach, but there was something different now. Her touch had changed, her posture too. The simple piece transformed under her fingers, each note given weight and meaning that hadn't been there before. But after just a minute, she stopped abruptly and returned to the simpler, more mechanical style. She played like this until the practice room hours ended, never once attempting anything more challenging than the beginner and intermediate pieces in her folder. The next morning, May sat stiffly on the bench in Dr. Wallace's studio. The room was intimidating. Awards and framed concert programs lined the walls. 2 concert grand pianos dominated the space, and recordings of the world's greatest pianists filled an entire bookshelf. "Let's begin with your assigned piece," Dr. Wallace said, sitting in a leather chair nearby. Mozart's Sonata in CK 545. May nodded and began to play. Her performance was technically correct. Right notes, proper tempo, decent dynamics. But something was missing. There was a mechanical quality to her playing, as if she were carefully holding something back. Dr. Wallace's frown deepened as she continued. When she finished, he didn't speak immediately. "Your technique is fine," he finally said, "but there's no life in your playing. No risks. It's like you're afraid of the music." "I'm sorry," May said quietly. "I'll try harder." "It's not about trying harder. It's about letting go." He studied her for a moment. "How long have you been playing?" Since I was 7. Relatively late, he noted. And your previous training? Community music school. Then 2 years at Riverside College before transferring here. Dr. Wallace made a note in her file. I'm assigning you Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat. It's not technically demanding, but it requires emotional depth. Let's see what you can do with it by next week. Over the following weeks, a pattern emerged. May would arrive perfectly prepared for each lesson. Her playing was always technically sound, but emotionally flat. Dr. Wallace pushed her toward more expressive playing, while May seemed determined to remain safely in the realm of technical correctness. In group performance class, May sat quietly, offering little during discussions. When called upon to play, she performed adequately but never volunteered. Other students began to ignore her, focusing instead on the more outspoken, ambitious pianist in the program. "What's the deal with the transfer student?" asked Liam, one of the top first years, during lunch one day. "She's like a robot or something, May?" "She's nice," Jun defended. "Just shy. She's taking up a spot someone else could have," said Zoe, another pianist. "Someone who actually wants to be here." "Wallace seems frustrated with her," added another student. "I heard him telling Professor Chen that she has the technical ability, but lacks artistic courage." Jun frowned. "That seems harsh." "This isn't community college," Liam said with a shrug. "If you can't handle the heat." The conversation shifted, but the sentiment lingered. May had become the quiet disappointment of the first-year class. In her 3rd month at Eastman, May found herself in Dr. Wallace's office for her mid-semester review. The atmosphere was tense. "Your technical progress is fine," Dr. Wallace began, "but I'm concerned about your development as an artist." May sat with her hands folded in her lap, eyes focused on the floor. "I've given you increasingly expressive pieces, yet you perform them all the same way, technically proficient but emotionally vacant." He leaned forward. "I'm beginning to wonder if you truly want to be here, May." "I do," she said, her voice barely audible. "Then prove it. Show me something, anything, that suggests you have the passion this program requires." His frustration was evident. "What are you afraid of?" May didn't answer. Dr. Wallace sighed. "The faculty will be meeting next week to discuss student progress. Several professors have noted your reluctance to fully engage. If you continue like this, we may need to reconsider your place here." For the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed May's face, something between fear and determination. "I'll do better," she said. That evening, the janitor, Mr. Rivera, was making his usual rounds when he noticed a light on in one of the basement practice rooms, a dusty space with an old upright piano that students rarely used. It was well past the time when the practice room should have been vacant. He approached quietly, not wanting to startle whoever was inside. Through the small window in the door, he could see May sitting at the piano. Her posture was different, relaxed yet focused. She wasn't playing, just sitting with her hands hovering over the keys, eyes closed as if listening to something only she could hear. Mr. Rivera was about to knock when May began to play. The simple melody of a folk song filled the room, but there was nothing simple about the way she played it. The music breathed with a life and depth he had never heard from student pianists. As the song progressed, she began adding complexities, transforming the simple tune into something rich and moving, her fingers dancing across the keys with fluid grace. Mr. Rivera stood transfixed. This was not the same student others had described as mechanical and uninspired. This was someone playing with profound musicality and incredible technique, yet deliberately hiding both. When she finished, May opened her eyes and immediately tensed, sensing someone's presence. She turned toward the door. Mr. Rivera stepped back, unsure whether to make his presence known. Something told him this private moment wasn't meant to be shared. Quietly, he continued his rounds, pondering what he had witnessed and why such a talented young pianist would hide her true abilities. The next day, in performance class, May played her assigned Chopin piece with the same restrained approach she always used. Watching her, no one would have guessed at the hidden depths Mr. Rivera had glimpsed. As polite applause followed her performance, Dr. Wallace's expression showed clear disappointment. Several students exchanged knowing looks, confirming their assessment of her as merely adequate. Only June seemed to notice something odd, a moment when May's fingers hesitated over a particularly emotional passage, as if she were consciously pulling back from what she could really do. But even Jun couldn't imagine the truth about the quiet transfer student with the downcast eyes, and the secret she worked so hard to conceal. A buzz of excitement filled the halls of Eastman Conservatory. Posters announcing a special masterclass with world-renowned pianist Vladimir Ashkenazy had appeared overnight, sending students into a frenzy of extra practice sessions and nervous chatter. Only Maylene seemed unmoved by the news, quietly continuing her routine of solitary practice and minimal interaction. "Aren't you excited?" June asked, catching up with May after theory class. "Ashkenazy is a legend. He rarely does masterclasses anymore." May nodded politely. "It should be interesting to watch." "Watch? Don't you want to perform for him?" Jun's eyes widened. "I'd give anything for that chance, even though I'm a violinist." "I don't think I'm ready for something like that," May said, her voice soft but firm. Jun frowned. "You know, I don't get you sometimes. It's like you don't want opportunities." Before May could respond, a notice appeared on the department bulletin board. Dr. Wallace and the faculty would be selecting 6 pianists to perform in the masterclass. Each student would prepare a challenging piece to showcase their abilities. That afternoon, Dr. Wallace summoned May to his office. The sunlight streaming through his window did little to warm the atmosphere inside. "I've been reviewing your progress," he began, his fingers forming a steeple on his desk. "Or rather, your lack of it." May sat perfectly still, her face a careful mask. "Technically, you're doing the work. But there's no growth, no risk-taking." He leaned forward. "It's as if you've built a wall around your playing. I'm trying," May began. "No, you're not," Dr. Wallace interrupted. "That's precisely the problem. You're doing just enough to get by, nothing more." He pulled out a folder. "The faculty has been discussing your case. Some suggest you might be better suited to music education rather than performance." For the first time, a flash of real emotion crossed May's face, something like panic. "I want to stay in the performance program," she said, her voice stronger than usual. Dr. Wallace studied her for a long moment. "Then prove you belong here." He pulled out a score and placed it on the desk between them. May's eyes widened slightly as she recognized the distinctive notation of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto, one of the most technically demanding pieces in the classical repertoire. "This will be your piece for the upcoming student showcase," Dr. Wallace said, "and for Ashkenazy's masterclass." "But that's only 3 weeks away," May protested, her calm facade cracking. "And this piece? It's difficult." "Yes, beyond your capabilities? That remains to be seen." Dr. Wallace's tone was unyielding. "The faculty agrees. It's time to challenge you beyond your comfort zone. I don't think I can—" "Then perhaps you should reconsider your place in this program." His words hung in the air between them. "This is your chance, May. Rise to it or accept that you don't belong in performance." May stared at the score, her fingers trembling slightly before she clenched them into fists. "You have 3 weeks," Dr. Wallace continued. "I expect to see you working harder than you ever have. No more hiding in that basement practice room." May's head snapped up. "How did you know about it? This is a conservatory. Very little goes unnoticed." He handed her the score. "Professor Chen will work with you daily until the showcase. I've arranged for extra practice time in the main hall so you can get used to the acoustics." As May left the office, clutching the intimidating score, she nearly collided with Dr. Chen in the hallway. The older woman's kind eyes contrasted with her reputation for rigorous standards. "Ah, May, I see Thomas has given you your assignment." She glanced at the score. "Ambitious. It's impossible," May whispered. "In 3 weeks? Nothing is impossible until you've truly tried." Dr. Chen guided her toward the practice rooms. "We start now. 1 hour today, 2 hours tomorrow, 3 the day after." The next days passed in a blur of intensive coaching. Dr. Chen was relentless yet encouraging, working through the concerto section by section. To everyone's surprise, May seemed to grasp the technical aspects more quickly than expected, though her playing remained cautious and controlled. "You're hitting the notes," Dr. Chen said during their 5th session. "But Rachmaninoff requires more. This piece is about passion, about pushing beyond limits." She studied May carefully. "What are you afraid of?" May kept her eyes on the keys. "Making mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn. Not here," May said quietly. "Here, mistakes mean failure." Dr. Chen sighed. "Is that what you think? That we expect perfection?" She closed the piano lid gently. "Perfection is boring, May. We want to see you, the real you, in your playing." That evening, May skipped dinner and returned to her secret haven, the basement practice room with its old upright piano. She glanced nervously around before entering, making sure no one saw her. Once inside, she locked the door and sat at the bench. Placing Rachmaninoff's score in front of her, she began to play, not the cautious, note-by-note approach she'd shown Dr. Chen, but with startling fluidity and understanding. Her fingers flew across the keys, navigating the complex passages with the assurance of someone intimately familiar with the work. As she played, her face transformed, showing a depth of emotion and connection to the music that had never been visible in her lessons. Unknown to May, Mr. Rivera wasn't the only one who had discovered her secret. Dr. Chen had followed the sound of playing to the basement and now stood outside the door, listening in astonishment to what could only be described as a masterful interpretation of one of piano's most challenging works. The next morning, Dr. Chen met with Dr. Wallace in his office, her expression troubled. "She's playing games with us," Dr. Wallace said when Dr. Chen described what she'd heard. "But why? What possible reason could she have for hiding her abilities?" "I don't know," Dr. Chen replied. "But there's more to this young woman than we realized." Dr. Wallace's brow furrowed. "I want proof. If she's truly capable of playing at that level, why the charade of mediocrity?" The answer came unexpectedly. Mr. Rivera, having overheard their conversation, knocked hesitantly on the office door. "Excuse me, professors. I couldn't help hearing." He pulled out his phone. "I think you should see this." He showed them a brief video he'd recorded through the practice room door's window. The footage was grainy in the dim light but unmistakable. May playing a passage from Rachmaninoff with extraordinary skill, her face transformed by the music. "I took this 2 nights ago," Mr. Rivera explained. "I know I shouldn't have recorded without permission, but..." He shrugged. "I thought someone should know what she can really do." Dr. Wallace stared at the screen, his expression shifting from disbelief to determination. "Thank you. Mr. Rivera, this stays between us for now." He turned to Dr. Chen. "Continue working with her as before. Don't let on that we know." As the date of the masterclass approached, tension mounted. The selected students practiced frantically, anxiety running high as they prepared to perform for one of the world's greatest pianists. May continued her dual existence, playing cautiously during official sessions while secretly working on the concerto with surprising command during her night practices. 2 days before the showcase, Dr. Wallace called May into his office again. This time, Professor Wong, the department chair, was present as well. "We need to discuss your performance," Dr. Wallace began. "Professor Chen reports that while you're making progress, you're nowhere near ready for the showcase." May lowered her eyes. "I told you I couldn't prepare this piece in 3 weeks. Yet you spend hours practicing alone," Professor Wong noted. "One might wonder what you're doing during that time." May's hands tightened in her lap. "Just trying my best." Dr. Wallace exchanged glances with Professor Wong. "We have a proposition for you. Favor, the showcase program has already been printed with your name and Rachmaninoff's 3rd concerto listed. You will perform it as scheduled. But, however," he continued, "the outcome of that performance will determine your future here. Play it well, truly well, and you remain in the performance program. Hold back, and you'll be transferred to music education immediately." "You're giving me an ultimatum?" May's voice trembled. "We're giving you a chance to be honest," Professor Wong said gently, "with us and with yourself." After May left, visibly shaken, Dr. Wallace turned to his colleague. "Do you think we pushed too hard?" Professor Wong shook her head. "Sometimes talent needs a push to reveal itself. The question is, why is she hiding in the first place?" That night, May didn't go to the basement practice room. Instead, she sat in her dorm room, phone in hand, apparently struggling with a decision. Finally, she dialed a number. "Hello?" she said when someone answered. "It's May, I think they know." She listened for a moment, tears forming in her eyes. "What should I do?" Another pause. "Yes, I understand. Thank you." She ended the call and sat in silence, the weight of her decision visible in the slump of her shoulders. Then, with sudden resolve, she straightened her back, wiped her eyes, and opened her laptop. She began typing rapidly as if composing an important message. Outside her window, the lights of the conservatory gleamed in the darkness, In just 2 days, May would either continue her careful charade or finally reveal whatever truth she had been hiding since her arrival at Eastman. The morning of Vladimir Ashkenazy's masterclass arrived with a flurry of activity. Students rushed through the halls carrying sheet music and coffee cups, their faces showing a mix of excitement and anxiety. The grand performance hall, usually reserved for visiting artists and faculty recitals, had been prepared with special care. A magnificent Steinway concert grand piano gleamed under the stage lights, its lid propped fully open. Backstage, the 6 selected students paced nervously, each lost in their own thoughts. May stood apart from the others, her eyes closed, hands motionless at her sides. Unlike her peers who practiced finger movements or mouthed difficult passages, she remained perfectly still, as if conserving every ounce of energy. Dr. Wallace appeared, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Ashkenazy has arrived. You'll each have 20 minutes, 15 to perform and 5 for his critique." His eyes lingered on May. "Performance order is posted by the door. May, you're last." A murmur ran through the group. Being selected to close the masterclass could either be a vote of confidence or a sign that faculty expectations were low. "One more thing," Dr. Wallace added. "We have some unexpected guests today. Several notable pianists and critics happened to be in town for the symphony's gala and asked to observe. This is an excellent opportunity to be noticed." He glanced around the group. "Remember your training. Trust your preparation." As the first student walked on stage to polite applause, May slipped away from the group. She found a quiet corner backstage and pulled out her phone, checking for messages. Finding none, she sent a quick text. "It's happening now. Last performer. Can't back out." The reply came moments later. "Remember who you are." Jun found May in her hiding spot 30 minutes later. "There you are. Aren't you watching the others? Ashkenazy is amazing, tough but fair. He completely transformed how Liam approached the Liszt sonata." "I needed some quiet," May explained. Jun studied her friend's face. "You look different today." "Just nervous, I guess." "No, it's not that." Jun tilted her head. "You look ready." A small smile touched May's lips. "Maybe I am." As the afternoon progressed, each student performed their selected piece. Ashkenazy proved to be a demanding but insightful teacher, immediately identifying weaknesses and offering concrete suggestions. The audience, larger than usual due to the special guests, responded warmly to each performance. Backstage, Dr. Chen approached May during the 5th performance. "Almost your turn."
"How are you feeling?"
"Calm," May answered, surprising them both. Dr. Chen smiled knowingly. The calm before the storm, perhaps. When the 5th student returned backstage, face flushed with the effort of their performance, Dr. Wallace called for May. "It's time," he said simply. May nodded and started toward the stage. Dr. Wallace placed a hand on her arm, stopping her briefly. "Whatever happens out there," he said quietly, "just know that we've seen glimpses of who you really are." May's eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing as she walked onto the stage. The audience applauded politely as she took her place at the piano. From her seat in the front row, Jun gave an encouraging thumbs up. Next to her sat Mr. Rivera, who had been invited by Dr. Chen to witness whatever might unfold. Several rows back, distinguished visitors whispered among themselves. Programs open to read about this final, unknown student. Vladimir Ashkenazy nodded to May from his seat near the piano. "Good afternoon. You've chosen Rachmaninoff's 3rd Concerto, an ambitious piece. Please begin whenever you're ready." May closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, something had changed. She sat taller, her shoulders relaxed but poised. Her hands settled on the keys with natural authority. Those watching closely might have noticed that she looked like a different person entirely, as if she had finally stepped out of a costume she had been wearing for months. Her first notes were quiet but commanding, building the famous opening theme with understated confidence. The audience leaned forward slightly, sensing something unexpected in her approach. As the piece developed, May's playing revealed not just technical proficiency but a deep, intuitive understanding of Rachmaninoff's intentions. In the 3rd row, a silver-haired woman in a tailored black suit stopped taking notes and simply stared. Next to her, an older gentleman with thick glasses removed them slowly, as if they were interfering with what he was hearing. Backstage, The other students gathered in the wings, drawn by what was happening. Dr. Wallace stood frozen, his clipboard forgotten in his hand. "My God," he whispered to Dr. Chen. "She's not just playing it. She's reinventing it." Dr. Chen nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I suspected as much." As May reached the first movement's cadenza, a notoriously difficult solo passage, her playing took on an almost supernatural quality. Her interpretation balanced technical brilliance with emotional depth that professional pianists spend decades trying to achieve. Her body swayed gently with the music, completely at one with the instrument. In the audience, Jun's mouth hung open in shock. Mr. Rivera beamed with pride, as if he had discovered a precious secret that was now being revealed to the world. Ashkenazi himself had leaned forward in his chair, all pretense of casual observation abandoned. When the first movement ended, there was a moment of complete silence before the audience erupted in spontaneous applause, breaking the usual protocol of waiting until the entire piece was complete. Ashkenazi made no attempt to stop them. As the applause died down, he approached the piano. "I think we've heard enough to know we're in the presence of extraordinary talent." He turned to the audience. "This young woman is playing at a level that, frankly, surpasses what I would expect from most conservatory professors." Murmurs spread through the hall. May sat quietly, hands folded in her lap. "Perhaps you could explain," Ashkenazi continued, addressing May directly, "why someone with your abilities would hide them." All eyes turned to May. She glanced toward the audience, then to Dr. Wallace and Dr. Chen standing in the wings. "I wanted to experience music education from the beginning," she said softly, her voice somehow carrying throughout the hall. Without assumptions or expectations, the silver-haired woman in the third row stood up suddenly. "I knew it," she declared. "That technique is unmistakable. You're Yuja Wang's student, aren't you?" A gasp rippled through the crowd. Yuja Wang was one of the world's most celebrated pianists, known for her phenomenal technique and artistic innovation. May nodded slowly. "Yes, I've studied with her privately for 7 years." Dr. Wallace stepped onto the stage, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning understanding. "But your application?" "Your previous experience, Guy, was carefully edited," May admitted. "I used my mother's maiden name. Changed some details, but why?" Ashkenazi asked, genuinely puzzled. Most students would do anything to advertise such a connection. May's eyes found June in the audience, then moved to Mr. Rivera. "When you're known as a prodigy or a famous musician's protege, people treat you differently. They either expect too much or they resent you." She turned to Dr. Wallace. "I wanted to know how music is taught to normal students, how professors approach those who aren't already formed as artists." The gentleman with thick glasses had made his way to the stage. "I reviewed your performance in Beijing 2 years ago," he said, recognition dawning on his face. "You played under the name Lin Meihua. The critics called you Wang's miracle student." More whispers spread through the audience. On stage, Dr. Wallace looked stunned. "I remember that review," he said slowly. "It described a young pianist who reimagines classics with reverence and revolution in equal measure." He stared at May. "That was you?" May nodded, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "After that concert, everything changed. Suddenly, everyone wanted to shape my career, tell me what to play, how to play it." Her voice grew stronger, but I wasn't ready. I wanted to understand music education from the inside, to experience how most musicians learn. Ashkenazi nodded thoughtfully. "So you created a new identity." "With my teacher's help," May confirmed. She understood what I needed, space to grow without the pressure of being the next Yuja Wang. From the back of the hall, a new voice called out. "And I would say the experiment has been a success." Heads turned as a woman walked down the center aisle. Tall and elegant in a simple black dress, she moved with the easy confidence of someone used to commanding attention. Several people gasped as they recognized Yuja Wang herself. May's eyes widened. "You came," she whispered. "Of course," Wang replied, reaching the stage. "When you texted that they had discovered your abilities, I knew it was time." She addressed the stunned audience. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary for May's development. She needed to experience music without the burden of reputation." Dr. Wallace found his voice. "You could have told us," Wang smiled. "And would you have treated her like any other student? Would you have pushed her the same way, or would you have handled her with kid gloves?" afraid to challenge the great Yuja Wang's prize pupil. Dr. Wallace had no answer. The truth is, Wang continued, May has a gift that transcends technical training. But she needed to understand how musicians are taught, how they struggle, how they grow. She looked at May with obvious pride. She wanted to be a complete musician, not just a technical marvel. May stood from the piano bench. I never meant to deceive anyone. I just wanted to experience normal student life before her international debut tour next season. Wang finished. Carnegie Hall has already confirmed dates. The hall erupted in excited conversation. June sat in her seat, looking shocked and a little hurt. Mr. Rivera simply nodded, as if this explained everything he'd observed. Dr. Chen smiled knowingly, while Dr. Wallace seemed to be processing what this meant for the conservatory's reputation. Ashkenazi broke the moment by laughing heartily. Well, this has certainly been the most unusual masterclass of my career. He turned to May. I doubt I have much to teach you technically, but perhaps we could discuss your interpretation of the second movement. There were some fascinating choices in your approach to the development section. As May and Ashkenazi began an animated conversation about Rachmaninoff's intentions, Dr. Wallace made his way to Wang. How long have you been planning this experiment? He asked quietly. Since May won the Beijing International Competition at 16, Wang replied. The music world can be cruel to young talents. We chew them up and discard them when they burn out. I didn't want that for her. She watched her student with affection. She needed this time. To be unknown, to struggle, to learn what it means to be part of a musical community. Dr. Wallace nodded slowly, beginning to understand. And now? Wang smiled. Now the world gets to meet the real Mei Lin. She paused. Though I hope she might finish her studies here first. She speaks very highly of your teaching methods, especially your insistence on pushing her beyond her comfort zone. As the impromptu discussion continued on stage, June finally made her way to May. So all those times you claimed you couldn't play something, June began, her voice a mixture of admiration and betrayal. I'm sorry, May said sincerely. I wanted real friendships, not people who liked me because of who my teacher is or what competitions I've won. June shook her head in wonder. You're something else, Mei Lin, or whatever your real name is. It is Mei Lin, she replied with a small smile. That much was always true. News travels fast in the music world. By evening, the story of Mei Lin, the famous protégé who had been studying undercover at Eastman Conservatory, had spread throughout the campus. By the next morning, it had reached music departments across the country. Within 2 days, several classical music blogs had picked up the story, calling it the musical revelation of the year. May found herself suddenly thrust into the spotlight she had been so carefully avoiding. Students who had barely noticed her before now stared as she walked through the halls. Some approached with questions, others with congratulations, and a few with thinly veiled resentment. There she is, a voice whispered as May entered the cafeteria 3 days after the masterclass. The secret genius. June, loyal despite her initial hurt, walked protectively at May's side. Just ignore them, she advised. They're just jealous they didn't figure it out first. I don't blame them for being upset, May said quietly. I wasn't honest. They found a table in the corner away from curious eyes. May picked at her food without much interest. Have you spoken to Dr. Wallace since? June asked. May shook her head. He left a message asking to meet this afternoon. She pushed her plate away. I'm not sure what to say to him. The truth might be a good start, June suggested with a small smile. That's the problem, May sighed. I've been telling half-truths for so long I'm not sure what the whole truth looks like anymore. Their conversation was interrupted by a message alert on May's phone. She checked it, her expression growing serious. It's Yuja, she told June. The conservatory has called a special meeting of the scholarship committee. They want us both there. Is that bad? I don't know. May's fingers tapped nervously on the table. My scholarship was for students with exceptional potential but limited formal training. Well, you definitely have exceptional potential, June said, trying to lighten the mood. May didn't smile. But I had years of the best training money can buy. I don't deserve that scholarship. That afternoon, May found herself sitting outside the administration building's main conference room. Through the door, she could hear muffled voices engaged in what sounded like a heated discussion. She recognized Dr. Wallace's distinctive tone rising above the others occasionally, though she couldn't make out his words. The door opened suddenly, and Dr. Chen appeared. "They're ready for you, May." Inside, the long conference table was surrounded by faculty members and administrators. Dr. Wallace sat at one end, his expression unreadable. At the other end, surprisingly, sat Yuja Wang, looking completely at ease despite the formal setting. "Please sit down, Ms. Lin," said Dean Thompson, gesturing to an empty chair. His use of her student name rather than her performance name was not lost on May. "Thank you for coming," the dean continued once she was seated. "As you might imagine, your situation presents us with some unusual circumstances." May nodded, keeping her eyes on the table. "The scholarship you were awarded," he continued, "was specifically designated for students without access to elite training. Given what we now know about your background, the committee has been discussing whether your continued receipt of these funds is appropriate." "I understand," May said quietly. "I'm prepared to return the full amount." "That won't be necessary," Dr. Wallace spoke up, surprising her. "The committee has reached a different conclusion." Dean Thompson nodded. "After considerable discussion, we recognize that while the letter of the scholarship criteria may have been violated, the spirit was not." May looked up, confused. "I don't understand." Dr. Wallace leaned forward. "You came here seeking an educational experience you couldn't get elsewhere, the chance to learn as an ordinary student, to understand music education from the ground up. That's exactly what the scholarship was designed for, to provide opportunities that would otherwise be inaccessible." "But I had access to world-class training," May protested. "To technique," yes, Dr. Chen added, "but not to the formative experiences of developing as an artist within an academic community." Yuja Wang spoke for the first time. "I've explained to the committee how we tried to create those experiences privately, but it wasn't the same. You needed peers, not just teachers." Dean Thompson cleared his throat. "Which brings us to our proposal. We would like you to remain at Eastman, with your scholarship intact but with a modified program." He slid a folder across the table. May opened it to find a new curriculum outline. "We're offering a hybrid program," Dr. Wallace explained. "You'll continue your performance studies, of course, but with advanced coursework and some teaching responsibilities." "Teaching?" May looked up in surprise. "A special masterclass series for first and second year students," Dr. Chen said, "sharing your unique perspective on technique and interpretation." "But I'm not qualified to teach," May protested. Yuja Wang laughed softly. "My dear, you've been teaching me things about Rachmaninoff for years. Don't pretend otherwise." The faculty exchanged glances and Dean Thompson continued. "There's another element to our proposal. The conservatory would like to sponsor a limited recital tour next semester. 5 cities, including your Carnegie Hall debut." May's eyes widened. "But that was scheduled for next year." "Plans change," Yuja said simply. "The music world now knows you're ready. There's no purpose in waiting. This would be beneficial for both you and the conservatory," the dean added. "You would perform as an Eastman student with appropriate mentorship and support." May looked around the table, taking in the expectant faces of her professors. "May I have some time to consider this?" "Of course," Dean Thompson replied. "But we would need your answer by the end of the week." As the meeting concluded, Dr. Wallace asked May to stay behind. When they were alone, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. "I owe you an apology," May finally said. "I wasn't honest about who I was or what I could do." Dr. Wallace studied her for a moment. "No, you weren't, but I think I understand why." He gestured for her to sit again. "Tell me something honestly. Did you learn anything valuable during your time pretending to be a beginner?" May considered the question carefully. "More than I expected," she admitted. "I learned how most students approach music, the fear, the doubt, the small victories. I learned how teachers build confidence and technique from the ground up." She met his eyes directly. "And I learned that there are many ways to be a musician, not just the path I was on." Dr. Wallace nodded slowly. "That's what we hoped you'd say." He leaned back in his chair. "You know, when Ms. Wang first contacted me 6 months ago about this experiment, I thought she was crazy." May's jaw dropped. "You knew? From the beginning?" "Not exactly," he clarified. "She reached out to explore the possibility of your enrollment, explaining her concerns about your development. She asked if we would consider allowing you to apply under your mother's name, without revealing your background." A small smile crossed his face. She didn't tell me exactly who you were, just that you were a young pianist who needed room to grow without the weight of expectations. And you agreed? May could hardly believe what she was hearing. Conditionally, Dr. Wallace said. I told her I would accept the application but would make no promises about special treatment. If we discovered your deception, you would face the consequences like any student. So the ultimatum with Rachmaninoff was real, he confirmed. But I suspected it might force your hand. When Mr. Rivera showed us that video, it confirmed what Dr. Chen had been telling me for weeks, that you were holding back deliberately. He shook his head. I still didn't know the full extent of your abilities until the master class. May sat in stunned silence, processing this revelation. The question now, Dr. Wallace continued, is what do you want? Not what Ms. Wang wants for you or what the conservatory wants. What does Mei Lin want for her future? The question caught her off guard. For years, her path had seemed predetermined. More competitions, recitals, recording contracts, the life of a touring virtuoso. She had never really been asked what she wanted. I don't know, she admitted. I love performing, but these past months being just another student. She paused, gathering her thoughts. There was freedom in it. A chance to explore music without the pressure of being perfect. Dr. Wallace nodded encouragingly. Go on, I think I want both worlds, she said slowly. I want to perform, to share the music I love. But I also want to keep learning, to have normal friendships, to discover who I am as a musician and a person outside the spotlight. That sounds like a reasonable goal, Dr. Wallace said. Difficult to achieve, perhaps, but worthwhile. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Jean peeked in hesitantly. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but there's something you should see. She handed May her tablet, open to a major classical music website. The headline read, Prodigy in Disguise, the Remarkable Story of Mei Lin. Below it was a photo taken during the master class, capturing the moment when May was lost in Rachmaninoff's music. Her face transformed by genuine artistic passion. It's gone viral in music circles, Jun explained. You're trending on social media. People are calling you the hidden virtuoso. May handed the tablet back, her expression troubled. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. Perhaps, Dr. Wallace said thoughtfully, but it also presents an opportunity. You have a unique story, one that might help other young musicians who feel trapped by early success or others' expectations. You mean use this publicity for something positive? May asked. Precisely, Dr. Wallace nodded. The world loves stories of hidden talent and secret genius. But beyond the sensationalism, there's a meaningful conversation to be had about how we develop young musicians, about the pressures of early fame, about what it means to grow as an artist. Jun sat down next to her friend. Plus, now that everyone knows who you really are, you can just be yourself. No more hiding or pretending to be less than you are. May considered this. Maybe you're right. She turned back to Dr. Wallace. What would you advise me to do about the conservatory's offer? Dr. Wallace leaned forward. Accept it, but with your own conditions. Negotiate the touring schedule to prioritize your education. Insist on time for normal student activities. Define your teaching role in a way that feels authentic to you. He smiled. In other words, take control of your story. For the first time in days, May felt a sense of clarity. The choice wasn't between being a famous pianist or an ordinary student. It was about finding a way to be both on her own terms. I'll need to talk to Yuja, she said, and I'll need to think about what I really want from the next few years. That sounds like a good place to start, Dr. Wallace agreed. As they left the conference room, May noticed students gathering in the hallway watching her with curious eyes. Some held copies of the music magazine with her story, others whispered behind their hands. But a few, including Liam, who had once dismissed her as mediocre, offered genuine smiles. Masterclass tomorrow in room 315, Dr. Chen announced to the gathering students. Ms. Lin will be performing the complete Rachmaninoff concerto and discussing her interpretation. May started to protest, but caught herself. This was her new reality. No more hiding, no more pretending to be less than she was. I'll be there, she said, her voice finding a new confidence. And please call me May. 6 months had passed since the revelation at Ashkenazi's masterclass. Spring had arrived at Eastman Conservatory, bringing with it a flurry of end-of-year recitals, juries, and graduation preparations. The campus buzzed with the nervous energy of students finishing projects and planning summer activities. For Mei Lin, The past months had been a whirlwind of adjustments, challenges, and unexpected joys. After accepting the conservatory's modified program, she had navigated a delicate balance between student and emerging professional, between her past identity and her new reality. On this particular April morning, May sat at the piano in her favorite practice room, not the hidden basement space she once used for secret practice, but a bright corner room with large windows overlooking the campus gardens. As her fingers moved through warm-up exercises, she glanced at the clock. Her first student would arrive in 30 minutes. The door opened and Jun peeked in. "Ready for your big day?" May smiled at her friend. "As ready as I'll ever be." The New York Times music critic in the front row, no pressure, Jun teased, entering with 2 coffee cups. She handed one to May. "Figured you could use this." "Thanks." May took a sip. "It's strange. 6 months ago, I was terrified of anyone hearing me play. Now I'm giving a pre-tour recital with critics in attendance. And teaching a masterclass afterward," June added. "Professor Lin," May groaned. "Please don't call me that. My students already look at me like I'm some kind of piano goddess. It's uncomfortable." "Well, you kind of are," June said, sitting beside her on the bench. "But that's not why they respect you. No? They respect you because you understand their struggles. Because you take their problems seriously. Because you remember what it feels like to be afraid of failing." June nudged her gently. "Your whole undercover student thing actually made you a better teacher." May considered this. Her weekly master classes had quickly become among the most popular at the conservatory. Where other instructors focused solely on technique or interpretation, May addressed the psychological aspects of performance, the emotional relationship with music that so many teachers overlooked. "I got your postcard from Chicago," Jun said, changing the subject. "Sounds like the mini tour went well." "It was educational," May replied carefully. The limited recital tour the conservatory had proposed had evolved into 3 carefully selected performances: Chicago, Boston, and Philadelphia, designed as preparation for her Carnegie Hall debut next month. Yuja Wang had attended each one, offering guidance and support while allowing May to develop her own artistic identity. "Educational sounds boring," June pressed. "Give me details." "Adoring fans? Standing ovations? Fancy hotel rooms?" May laughed. "All of that, yes. But also lonely hotel rooms, exhausting travel, and the constant pressure to be perfect." She turned back to the piano. It confirmed something I've been feeling for a while. "Which is?" "I don't want the traditional concert pianist life, at least not full-time." Her fingers played a soft, thoughtful melody. "I want to perform, yes. But I also want to teach. To have a home base. To develop relationships that last longer than a post-concert reception." Jun studied her friend. "Have you told Yuja?" "We've discussed it." May's expression grew serious. She wasn't thrilled at first. "She's invested so much in my training, my career, but she's coming around to the idea that there are many ways to be successful in music." A knock on the practice room door interrupted their conversation. Dr. Wallace entered, carrying a stack of programs. "Hot off the press," he announced, handing them to May. "What do you think?" May examined the elegantly designed program for her recital. Her name was printed in bold letters at the top, with a professional photo beneath it, not the glamour shot typical of concert pianists, but a candid image of her working with a student at the piano, both of them smiling over a shared musical insight. "It's perfect," she said. "Thank you." The photographer captured the real you, Dr. Wallace noted. "Both artist and teacher." "Speaking of teaching," May said, "I've been thinking about your offer. Over winter break." Dr. Wallace had approached May with a proposal, a newly created position at Eastman combining performance, teaching, and academic research to begin after she completed her modified degree program. It would allow her to maintain a limited concert schedule while developing as an educator. "And?" Dr. Wallace asked, trying to hide his eagerness. "I'd like to accept," May said, "with one condition." "Name it." "I want to develop a program for young prodigies, a summer course that addresses not just technique, but the emotional and psychological challenges of early talent." Her voice grew passionate. "These kids need someone who understands what they're going through, who can help them maintain their love of music while handling the pressures." Dr. Wallace smiled broadly. "I was hoping you'd say something like that. The dean has already expressed interest in such a program, especially with your name attached to it." June checked her watch. Hate to break up the career planning, but you have 15 minutes until your student arrives and you still haven't told me what you're wearing to the recital. Dr. Wallace laughed. I'll leave you to these important matters. But May, I'm proud of the path you're forging. It's uniquely yours. After he left, May turned to June. Actually, I need your help with something before my student arrives. Outfit crisis? Hair emergency? More important than that. May pulled out her phone and showed June an email. I've been invited to give a TED Talk about my experience, about identity, expectations, and finding authentic artistic expression. June's eyes widened. That's huge. What are you going to talk about? That's what I need help with. May bit her lip. I'm thinking of calling it The Courage to Be Seen. Perfect title. June nodded approvingly. But what's the main message? May thought for a moment. That sometimes we hide our gifts because we're afraid of what comes with them. That being truly seen, being known for who we really are, is terrifying but necessary for growth. She smiled slightly, and that sometimes the long way around is the right path. I'd listen to that talk, June said sincerely. A knock on the door signaled the arrival of May's first student of the day, a nervous-looking first-year named Thomas who had been struggling with performance anxiety. We'll talk more later, June said, gathering her things. Dinner after the recital? A bunch of us are celebrating the end of semester. I'd like that, May replied. As June left, Thomas entered hesitantly, clutching his music. Am I too early, Ms. Lin? Not at all, May smiled, gesturing to the piano. And please call me May. Tell me what you've been working on since our last session. The young man placed his music on the stand. Chopin's Ballad No. 1, a piece May had performed to competition-winning acclaim when she was only 14. But instead of pointing this out or immediately demonstrating how it should be played, she asked Thomas to explain his connection to the music, what it meant to him personally. As he began to speak, his posture relaxed slightly. By the time he started to play, some of his usual tension had dissipated. May watched attentively, noting both the technical issues and the moments when his natural musicality shone through the nervousness. This, she had discovered, was what she loved most about teaching, helping students find their own voice, their own relationship with the music. It was as rewarding in its way as any standing ovation. That evening, the conservatory's main concert hall was filled to capacity. Faculty, students, local music lovers, and several prominent critics had gathered for what the promotional materials called An Evening with May Lin before Carnegie Hall. Backstage, May took deep breaths, centering herself before the performance. Dr. Chen adjusted the sash on May's concert dress, a striking but simple design that split the difference between traditional concert attire and more contemporary fashion. Much like May's playing bridged classical tradition and modern interpretation. Your parents would be so proud, Dr. Chen said softly. May nodded, thinking of her mother and father who had passed away when she was young, before her musical gifts had fully emerged. It had been Yu Wang who discovered 7-year-old May playing on a department store piano in Beijing, who had arranged for her education, who had become a surrogate parent as well as a teacher. 5 minutes, the stage manager called. Dr. Chen squeezed May's hand. Remember what you told your students yesterday? About performing? May smiled, recalling her own words. The goal isn't perfection. It's communication. It's making someone feel something they've never felt before? Exactly, Dr. Chen nodded. Now go make us feel something. As May walked onto the stage to enthusiastic applause, she caught sight of familiar faces in the audience. Jun in the third row with other students. Dr. Wallace and Dean Thompson in the front row, next to the New York Times critic. Mr. Rivera, now a friend rather than just the janitor who had discovered her secret, sitting proudly with his family, and Yu Wang, elegant as always, watching with the keen eye of a mentor who had guided her protégé to this moment of independence. May bowed, then settled at the piano. Her program was ambitious: Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, and yes, Rachmaninoff. But the final piece was her own composition, something she had been working on privately for years, a musical autobiography of sorts that traced her journey from prodigy to hidden student to the artist she was becoming. As she began to play, May felt a sense of wholeness that had eluded her before. She was no longer hiding, no longer pretending to be less than she was. But neither was she simply a vehicle for virtuosity or a reflection of her famous teacher. She was herself, complex, still evolving, but authentically Mei Lin. The music flowed through her with effortless power. Technical passages that had once required intense concentration now served the emotional narrative she was creating. Every note had purpose, every phrase told a story. When she reached her own composition at the end of the program, Mei took a moment to address the audience, something she had never done before in formal performances. "This final piece is called The Long Way Home," she explained. "It's dedicated to everyone who helped me find my true path, especially when that path wasn't what anyone expected." As she played the hauntingly beautiful, deeply personal music, Mei realized that her journey had come full circle. The challenge that Dr. Wallace had set before her 6 months ago, to play Rachmaninoff's Third Concerto, had been designed to force her to reveal her true abilities. But it had done much more than that. It had compelled her to reveal her true self. The final notes hung in the air, resonating with possibility. For a moment, the hall was completely silent. Then came applause, warm, genuine, and building to a standing ovation that acknowledged not just Mei's extraordinary talent, but her courage in charting a unique course through the demanding world of classical music. As she took her bows, Mei caught Dr. Wallace's eye. He nodded once, a gesture of profound respect between colleagues. In that moment, she knew she had found what she had been searching for all along, not just recognition for her abilities, but understanding of who she truly was and who she wanted to become. The applause continued as Mei left the stage, walking not toward an uncertain future, but toward a life she was now designing for herself, one note at a time.